Welcome to Mercworks. I'm John G., co-host with Brad,
I'm here.
and this is episode 001. Long time coming. Today, we're going to cover Russell Bonner Bentley. He was
Texas.
Yeah, call sign Texas. He was last seen in the DPR, or Donetsk People's Republic, contested area, claimed by Russia now, used to be in Ukraine's hands. He'd been there since 2014, became a citizen of the DPR, formerly lived in Dallas, Texas prior to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since
he's not able to be on the line with us today, so I thought it would be fitting if we could allow him to introduce himself. This is an introduction that he gave on the Max Blumenthal podcast circa 2022. And I'm going to go ahead and play that for you. I apologize in advance for the sound quality, but we're not part of the Parasite class.
Yes, I do have first-hand experience. I came here, I saw what happened in Maidan in early 2014. I followed the developments through the summer after the massacre in Odessa and the airstrike attack on the civilian administrative building in Lugansk in the summer of 2015. I could no longer live with myself as an American, seeing what the U.S. government was doing and not do something about it more than, like on a Facebook or write a form or something like that. So I sold basically everything I owned, cashed out, bought a ticket to Rostov-on-Don, flew there, and crossed the border to Donetsk in December 7th, 2014. A week later, I was in the Army. 2 weeks after that, on December 31st, 2014, was my first day in a frontline combat position in monastery, the Aversky Monastery, 400 meters from the Donetsk airport, which at that time was still held by the Ukrainian cyborg fascists, and one of the hottest, or the hottest position at that time in the whole Donbass war. I served in the Vostok Battalion, and then later in the Hans Battalion for about 10 months. Then I started going into information war as a humanitarian aid volunteer and also as a war correspondent. In 2017, I served for 4 months in the summer on the Avdiivka front as a internal troops, like military policeman basically, and did some hard work there, very heavy battles also. And since then, I'm now 61 years old. I got married, settled down. I still do human aid work, still do information warfare, which is just as important as military warfare, kinetic warfare, and sometimes just as tough, if not quite as dangerous. And I live with my wife on the very front lines. We're about 5 miles from the front combat lines. Our house, we have a small house with a big garden, a couple of kitties, and we do the best we can. I left Donetsk. I'm a citizen of the DPR. I'm a citizen of Russia now, and I plan on spending the rest of my life here. There's no place in the world I'd rather be.
And if you're curious, he got his wish. That is his public relations biography. That's what he put out to the world. Many, many times I've listened to several hours of this man talk. My brief synopsis of my reaction to him is he comes off as a retarded communist Alex Jones. And I'm curious, and I know you have done more research on his pre-public persona, and I honestly have no idea. So this is going to be my first time learning about some of his early life outside of his limited public school education and
Sure.
brief stint in prison, so, so by all means, enlighten us.
Yeah. I was going through social media threads like his Instagram, LinkedIn, even Astra News Agency, which is a Ukrainian media outlet. And out of those, I was just reading some of the comments. A lot of them, they vilified and they hated this guy. And he's not a likable guy. I would rate him best, maybe a likable villain. But one quote that someone chimed in, they used a Churchill quote, and I thought it was very appropriate for Mr. Bentley's outcome. And the Churchill quote reads, "He who rides the tiger's back will end up inside." And I'm like, that's fitting.
Meow.
But he was born in 1960 by his own admission to a wealthy family in the Dallas, Texas area.
I thought it was Austin. Was it Austin or Dallas?
I think his family's from Dallas, but yeah, he was born in Austin, grew up in Dallas.
Gotcha.
In high school, he would read Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and by age 16, a devout socialist. On his Instagram account, still has a photo of Che and professes to be a communist at this point. He ended up joining the U.S. Army and said he was a reserve force for the invasion of Grenada. But his MOS appears to be combat engineers. He is a self-described, or was a self-described demolitions expert.
Right.
He was stationed in Germany during the 3 years that he was in the Army as a combat engineer. And after that, he later moved to Minnesota.
What about his exit from the military? Was it honorable, dishonorable?
Honorable.
Honorable.
Yeah.
Well, it was just he did his term and was home.
Yeah, I think he did his 3 years and that was it. I mean, at this point in probably the 80s, yeah, that's when Grenada was going down.
Right. Not a fan of Reagan. Not a fan of Reagan, from what I heard in his interviews.
No, I think he said in one interview, JFK was the last real not bad president.
Yeah, I think not criminal was not non-criminal president. He also said that Reagan was an actor that played a good president role for TV. Was one of the quotes or something along those lines.
He was I guess I can see why he would hate Reagan. He loved Gaddafi. Certainly,
yeah. I heard an interview of him extolling the living conditions of Libya and how Gaddafi might have looked weird, but he shared the wealth with his citizens, which seems a little odd when you get to see the video of Gaddafi's end. But yeah, maybe that was just outliers.
Yeah.
Brothers.
Getting dragged out of a culvert and pegged in the ass with a bayonet. That's
yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
They have a weird way of showing the love.
Can't please everybody.
But Mr. Bentley, I think I could find myself in a bar. I could definitely have probably a 12-pack with him. And
I would buy several rounds of Shinerbach with him for sure.
I probably wouldn't agree with 99% of anything that comes out of his mouth, but it'd be entertaining to listen to.
Right, for sure. He had a way with words, and the one word that he had the most way with was Nazi. In the hours of content I listened to him, I mean, I've never heard one man who did not have purple or blue hair and ordered soy lattes at Starbucks use the word Nazi as much as he did. That was the Naziest hating dude I've ever had the privilege of listening to. I mean, it begs the question, a person like him, how authentic was his hatred of Nazis in the year, in the 2020s? I mean, it sounded more like one of those talking points that gets fed to somebody. Hey, anytime you're on somebody's podcast, make sure that you use the word Nazi in conjunction with Ukraine. And even so far as there was a few instances of listening to him tap dance around the fact that Zelensky is Jewish, but yet still a Nazi. And toward his later podcast, he kind of tightened it up to the point where he said that the Jews. So he was also he wasn't very fond of Jews either, because he said the Jews were in charge. Well, let me rephrase. He kind of equated the Jews and the billionaires. So those were kind of interchangeable terms. And of course,
he used Zionist as well.
Zionist, yes, that was another one. But he also called billionaires the parasite class, which, he said, they look at other people as cattle, and they were parasites, which are all very common anti-Semitic tropes. I'm sure that people have heard that before. The parasite class and the viewing the rest of the world as cattle. But he said that they had control of the government and the Nazis had control of the military. And that was that became, I noticed as listening to his stuff through, it wasn't a long, there wasn't a long period of his public relations or his information wars or his, special needs info wars stuff phase that he went through. But it wasn't a long phase, but you could see it grow and tighten up as he went. And yeah, it definitely, he definitely seemed like he was, what do they call that when politicians, like a certain politician that we probably don't want to touch. It's such a hot subject and a sore subject for so many right now, but they would repeat the same line over and over, whether the context called for it, like, what class of family you grew up in or that kind of stuff. It's,
he definitely
message discipline. He had very good message discipline is what I got from him. He's very good message discipline. There's Nazis.
Yeah. You look at when he got out of the army, moved to Minnesota, ran as a grassroots party for a U.S. Senate seat in Minnesota in the 1990s.
Got a few thousand votes too. I think like 8,000, 9,000.
Yeah. It was like almost 2% of the vote at the time. Like, that's wild. And at the time, I mean, he became an immigration gay rights activist. Like, that's different for the 90s.
Cannabis activist.
Yeah. And an anti-war protest movement. He hated the first Gulf War, or at least he talked shit about it. And all the subsequent GWAT, Global War on Terrorism campaigns, he talked shit about all that as well, or was against it. Minnesota, he really, I guess, gets into his groove and becomes a successful marijuana smuggler, leveraging his
successful. He won a battle or two.
Yeah.
The war, though.
But yeah, mid-90s, got arrested by the DEA, sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Do you know anything about that case? Like what they got, how they got him, or?
No, I don't.
I know it was a 5 year sentence, or he did 5 years. I don't know what the sentence was, but I know he did.
Well, he almost did 5 years. Well,
almost.
Yeah, and right before he was about to get out in 1999, like nearing the end. I'm sure they shave off a little bit of time if you're, decent enough in there, kind enough.
Mm-hmm.
He escapes from prison, like 1999. He escaped from federal prison, and I think it was a low security prison. But I'm like, you idiot! You're almost at the end. Then maybe that's just kind of describes the odd mindset that he had.
Yeah.
Right there towards the end, escapes. Details of his escape, I didn't look into it. and remained a fugitive until 2007.
I had no idea.
That's that's resilience right there.
In America, though, the whole time? He never left America?
Never left America.
Do you know where he went, or where was he eventually caught by the marshals? Or
the Marshal Service got him.
Do you know where?
I believe South Padre area, Texas, or at least that's where
Texas.
Yeah, relocated.
He had a very strong connection to Texas, and he brought that up in his public release talking points a lot. He likened,
oftentimes he'll see the DPR flag or some sort of DPR battalion flag alongside the Texas flag.
Mm-hmm, yeah, he talked about he would equate how especially the DPR, how it was very similar to the Texas Revolution, and how they whipped Mexico's ass, and then they had a referendum and decided to join America, and it was very similar to. I mean, he was always a DPR citizen first in his talking points, and not always very. He didn't praise Russia without. He wasn't lockstep with Russia. He had his qualms with Russia as well, but he was a DPR citizen through and through. I mean, that was his country in his mind.
Yeah. And
he talked about the DPR being the heart of Russia, I think, in the heart of communist Russia, and how it never fell. It was never not communist, and no love for a communist on this end of the line, but I certainly can respect a man's resolve to a failed ideology.
Yeah.
I guess.
But once he was recaptured, he had to finish out his time. He didn't get any significant time after that. Instead, they gave him about 5 years supervised release. So they just made him finish up the deficit, whatever he had. And I'm sure whatever good behavior points he accrued, those were, those got taken away. But 2012, supervised release ends. And let me back up to 2011. That's when Gaddafi got pegged by a bayonet up the ass and bludgeoned to death, dragged out of a culvert. By his, Russell Bentley's own admission, he calls that a trigger point in his life.
Yeah.
And accused NATO as fascist when Gaddafi was killed. So that was a trigger point by his own admission. And then 2012, he's released from the terms, his supervised release from federal prison. So that makes him mobile, in my opinion. Now he's like, all right, I'm already a convicted felon. He's waiting tables down in South Padre Island, Texas. I think
imagine that was your waiter.
Going
there for the 4th of July, and going there for the 4th of July with your American flag hat on, and get a lecture from your waiter about Nazis, cyborg Nazis.
Yeah, so 2012, he's free to, he can haul ass, leave, freedom of movement. He gets, he's free again, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Probably no drug testing or any of that stuff. And then 2014, the DPR breaks away, or the conflict begins. And broke up with his yoga instructor girlfriend, who's 20 years younger, sells his belongings, and he's off to fight some Nazis.
Fighting those Nazis. I mean, that dude, he never wavers from his hatred of Nazis. And that was, again, as I listened to him, I thought to myself, I wonder if his hair is purple or blue. Because certainly he has soy lattes every day. Every day he gets his soy latte.
In the DPR.
Because that guy saw a fascist everywhere. Punch a Nazi that was probably part of his daily prayers, I did pick up on his devotion to the Russian Orthodox Church, which is also very interesting, knowing the history. And I'm certainly not an ROC historian, but the ROC, the Russian Orthodox Church, was during the communist revolution, it was kind of co-opted by the state because, well, first the state tried to stamp it out. The USSR tried to stamp out the ROC, and then when that failed, it kind of co-opted it. And so they even convinced the higher ranking parts of the church to out members of the church who didn't believe that the state belonged in church matters, which I thought was, and then him coming out to be, he said it, I've heard him say it multiple times, he was devoutly Russian Orthodox, which is funny because, being a propagandist, kind of seemed like a propagandist himself. It's like he kind of found everything he needed in the DPR. He found his religion, he found his people, he found his calling.
Mm-hmm.
He's like no place he'd rather be.
Yeah, I mean, in the U.S. at that time, he would have been, I'm not going to say a loser, but like your prospects are kind of limited. Yeah. Like you're a convicted felon. I mean,
great education.
Yeah, educational.
Prison GED.
Yeah.
He's just a loser, I think, is probably a pretty fair term,
Yeah, and when you can like shed that skin and start anew.
Yeah.
Why not give it a try? And
he ended up being married and had a little house with a big garden and a couple cats, and he seemed to be on the payroll of probably the and it's hard to tell these days, but at least the third largest economy in the world. He seemed to be on the payroll, and it was he made something of himself. You have to say that, and he had a story to tell.
Yeah, by 2014, things get weirder. If it wasn't weird before, it gets weirder.
Yeah.
From there, he said, for within a week, he had already joined the DPR militia, which is the Vostok Battalion, which was formed, oddly enough, in 2014. Vostok
is like a founding member. Was he like a founding member of this battalion?
No, he's not a founding member. I mean, probably just an outsider volunteer at the time.
Okay, so a mercenary.
Yeah, a mercenary. And someone with his personality, I see him like, people taking him in, being a part of the team. But the Vostok Battalion is also known as the 114th Separate Guards Motor Rifle Brigade. At the time, it was considered a militia. I believe as of 2023, it's actually been incorporated into the Russian Federation Army. Its creator, which is interesting enough, was a Ukrainian defector who was the head of Ukraine's security service, or the SBU, a Spetsnaz, Special Forces unit of Ukraine at the time, and still exists today. And that's how the Vostok Battalion got created.
And is that the same SBU? That's the same one that he talks about flying Nazi flags and all that stuff. He seemed to be very.
I don't know. I don't recall him singling out the SBU or Ukraine's SBU. I think he would call any Ukrainian serviceman a Nazi.
Cyborg Nazi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And during his service years, 2014 to 2015 and part of 2017, I believe.
That's what
and what he kind of glazes over his part where he was in the XAH Spetsnaz Battalion. I believe he didn't really go into it, but on his Instagram, he's got photos where he's not one of the candidates, but he's filming other candidates who are trying out for that DPR Spetsnaz Battalion. Open source, queries. There's not a lot on it, so maybe that's maybe they haven't committed a bunch of war crimes yet. I don't know what that means with, or maybe they're that tier 1 or super secret squirrels that we just don't know much, but not a lot out there on them. Other than the most I could find on them was their tryouts on his social media accounts, where
what do you remember? What sticks out about the tryouts? I mean, was it specifically hard or?
Yeah, I want to say it was like 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 200 pull-ups, and like a really long ruck. I can't remember how many kilometers or miles it was, but he's taking photos and he's got these people's faces are out there. I'm like, I don't know if I would have done that. If you're trying to, create a Spetsnaz battalion, but just me. I've never operated in a.
Maybe not just you.
But that's that essentially sums up his military service. By his own admission, he said he was pulling triggers every day during his time there in the DPR.
He definitely,
which is believable. That's believable, but he doesn't. He doesn't talk about like.
He definitely glosses over
specificity, I guess.
A lot. And sometimes, I remember one part of an interview where he said, he said if Russia didn't, defeat the Ukrainians and they were to come to Donbass where he lived, he kind of paused in that interview and he racked an AK-47.
Yeah.
And he said, I have a few grenades here as well. I'd rather die than he used the word Ukrops a lot. I don't know if that's a slang or I don't know a lot about that.
I imagine it's like saying orcs to Russian or some. Yeah.
That was a term he took a lot of offense to the orcs thing. He did not like that term. He used that with much disdain in several interviews like, oh yeah, I'm sure we're all orcs over here just trying to, protect our homes, and this and that. But I mean, the guy, love him or hate him, believe him or disbelieve him, he lived 5 miles from the front line. He was in the shit. He was in the shit.
Yeah.
More so, and he chose to be in the shit. I mean, he was a true believer, and which I think harkens back to what you said. Like, you'd sit down and have a 12-pack with him. Like, I was thinking about him today, obviously, and I thought to myself, like, there's 7 billion people, I think, on Earth. Is that right? 7 billion, 8 billion? There's many billion people
10,
on Earth.
I think 10 billion-ish.
10 billion-ish. The vast majority of us are just different shades of gray. We're not that interesting,
Mm-hmm.
The real interesting ones are the true believers, whether they're stupid, retarded Alex Joneses or whatever they are. They're interesting because they're true believers. I mean, the guy's a true believer one way or the other.
Yeah, that took some real fanaticism or some nuts to just like, I'm out of here later. 20 years younger than me, yoga instructor, selling my motorcycle. I think he had one last Thanksgiving dinner with his family in Texas, and that's it. That takes.
He's a true believer, man. He was a true believer. I do believe that he thought that the world was boiled down to humans versus Nazis. I mean, there's nothing in anything that I listened to him. I mean, I do feel like he was fed lines that he was very, like I said, he had very good message discipline. It was very strong message discipline. And he had funny terms that were catchy, like in that introduction, cyborg Nazis, calling Ukrainians cyborg Nazis. It's funny and it's catchy, and I'll probably never forget it the rest of my life. But I do believe you cannot question a guy who leaves South Padre Island, Texas, and moves to an area that essentially is 5 miles.
Yeah, doesn't even speak Russian.
Doesn't speak Russian. He was 5 miles away from the Ukrainian base, and the front line extended about 100 miles in each direction from his house. So he was basically as literally in the center of the shit as you could get by choice. just an interesting character. I can't say enough, like, really an interesting human being. To have boiled down his entire existence into the battle of humans versus Nazis. And I mean, really believes it's humans versus Nazis. And, a lot of what the shit he said was crazy. I mean, there's no other way there's no other way to view what he says other than, like, that's a crazy person talking. But at the same time, I mean, he says there was a quote that was attributed to Mussolini, and I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but something to the effect of fascism is the consolidation of corporate and state power.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, can you argue that? Can you argue that? And, like, I'd say with the results of the last U.S. election, like, a lot of people probably agree with him. There's a lot of consolidation of corporate and state power.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely coziness.
Very cozy. Yeah, very cozy. I mean, with
definitely a relationship.
Definitely a relationship with the whole Twitter files release and all that stuff. I mean, you could see there's definitely corporate and state consolidation, power consolidation. So, an interesting character. Definitely fun to get to know him. And I probably won't stop after tonight trying to kind of look into him a little more. Like,
I mean, oddly enough, his Telegram channel is still posting stuff or content, and it's got over 21,000 followers. Very odd.
He called it the Russian Twitter.
Yeah.
In one interview, he said he's like, oh, Telegram's like the Russian Twitter. This is back in 2022, 2021. So when it was relatively unknown, but he was a very big proponent of Telegram.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that was, again, I urge anybody who doesn't know, Texas Bentley, you need to get to know Texas Bentley.
And we got to get into how he started out riding the Tiger's back and ended up inside.
Well, we've talked about how he started the ride, but let's talk.
It seemed like things were going well. He got himself a boo in the DPR.
Mm-hmm. At 61. At 61, He went over. And before we get into this too, another thing he talked about a lot, and also a hot button topic, is he talked about the pedophilia. He talked about human trafficking, and he brought in, kind of U.S. politics to it as well. He brought in with the fascist, the consolidation of state and corporate powers, and politicians and their family members being on the boards of corporations that had ties to states. Talked a lot about Victoria Nuland, and that the leaked phone call where, famously she said, fuck the EU. But also within that call, she said, we want certain people to be in certain positions in the Ukrainian government. And those people that did end up being in those positions. But I don't think I was aware of the amount of the allegations of human trafficking and organ harvesting and that have been leveled against NGOs, or by NGOs against the Ukrainian government. That was kind of eye-opening too, because I just did a little side.
I think China, whenever I hear organ harvesting.
Sure. Yeah. He was apparently a big peruser of the dark web, and would, point out, listings of Ukrainian children that were listed by blood type for sale, and how there were prices to deliver them to the edges of Ukraine.
That doesn't surprise me at all. That part of the human trafficking aspect.
Yeah. And it was like additional charges to deliver them to Poland. And he also talked about how, and I don't know, I did not have a chance to look into this, but he also talked about how Poland and Hungary were involved in some of the ceasefire talks, saying that they would be kind of caretaker states over certain parts of the Ukraine that bordered their countries. So
like
that
a
was
buffer zone, or
like, very much so, like, proud Russian that he became, for a few months. he would talk about how, when Napoleon marched on Russia, Russia ended up in Paris, and when Germany marched on Russia, Russia ended up in Berlin. Yeah, and so when the EU marched on Russia, he was saying that Russia was going to end up in the EU. That was his
not at this rate.
Prediction. Not at this rate. Yeah, and his tone changed. That was an earlier interview. His later interviews, he was a little miffed about some of the retreats that were being done, and blamed the
he started trashing like Russian lieutenants with their iPhones and
iPhones. Yeah.
But in Russian military doctrine, like, U.S., we have the NCO Corps who enforces discipline in the ranks. Russian military is structured where, like, younger lieutenants out of their academy, the officers, they enforce discipline. So it's a bit different. Maybe he understood that, maybe he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but
he had a Russian term for him that he said was.
That struck me when he was talking shit about Russian lieutenants, and I'm like, well, they are kind of like your disciplinarians, at least in the Russian, conventional military.
He had a Russian term that he translated loosely as like "pretty boys."
Yeah, with their iPhones.
With their iPhones, yeah. That was interesting, but yeah, it was. I thought the human trafficking, pedophilia stuff.
I think that's probably something widespread and proliferated throughout Eastern Europe. Especially somewhere.
Maybe just the billionaires.
Somewhere as disorganized as Ukraine probably is right now.
And that was his point. He said
human trafficking's probably least of their worries right now.
Yeah. Well, he was saying that it was even pre 2014.
Yeah, you read a lot of like organized crime.
Yeah. He talked about it a lot. He said it was kind of endemic in the government.
Yeah.
He never really believed that the Ukraine was a real country. I don't think that was part of his belief structure.
They have their own flag.
Yeah,
that's what I define a country as. I get it. DPR has a flag, but Ukraine had a flag before them.
Sure. Yeah, he just he called it. He thought it was more of a. He even said, I think he had said in one interview that Ukraine is translated as the borderlands or the outside edge or something to that effect, and it was just really the Russian borderlands, and it was a kind of a post-World War II construct. But again, like you said, they had a flag and a seat at the UN. So what are you gonna say? Not that I'm here to argue with Texas, but just my thoughts on it, and things that, like I said, there's hours and hours of content this man has put out, and he has good message discipline, and he will tell you what he thinks and what I think he believes, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's talk about his trip to the tiger's mouth.
To the tiger's belly.
Yeah.
So, old boy found love and married Ludmila, who took his last name, Bentley, probably butchering her first name. No apologies. Anyway, they were living in Petrovsky in the DPR, not far from the what he described as, the front lines.
Right.
And often getting shelled. Like you said, he still kept the AK and always, he kept the AK at his house and always carried a pistol in his pocket or in his satchel. Solid advice. I'm like, I always keep a pistol in my pocket.
Can't argue with the man on the front lines.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
But by this point, after 2017 and his, the last unit or battalion he served with, the XAH Spetsnaz battalion, where he loosely mentions and then kind of glosses over the military police role. Anyway, it seems he's kind of out of the military or the DPR militia at this point. It's not fully integrated into the Russian army or conventional forces. But he still has a lot of, it seems like he's really revered by the folks that, at least on his social media accounts that are still visible. Like Instagram, you can scroll all day and find, content from his wartime. And where he's at, there's a coal mine called the Petrovskaya coal mine. It was later taken over by what's the name of the unit? It's called the 5th Brigade, also known as the Oplot Brigade. And if you start going down a rabbit hole, and, some of these media outlets, they claim to have, specifically Astra, that was one of them. There was a couple others. And some other mainstream open source media outlets that claim, even by Russian troops, that the 5th Brigade or the Oplot Brigade, and the 5th Brigade is also called the Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade. The 5th. We'll just call them the 5th from here on out.
And to clarify real quick, while we're talking about news sources, was he employed?
Yes, he was. Yeah. So, sorry, yeah. So, like his employment, he's employed by Russian Sputnik news outlet.
Mm-hmm.
And up until 2022, he was also like a freelance journalist posting shit on any type of Western media outlets that would allow him. Ultimately, he was kicked off of most of those, other than X. I think, didn't he got back on X or Twitter?
Yes. I think he got back on X. He got kicked off of Twitter and he got back on
and the
X.
Gram.
And the Gram.
Because I think the Gram,
not ever YouTube. YouTube was his main outlet, if I feel like, for the longest.
2022, that's when they shit canned that. They're like, nope.
They shit canned him, man. Yep. But anytime that YouTube censors you, that really hurts your credibility. No offense, Google. We're big fans.
Sure. So he's in Petrovsky at this point, working for Sputnik news outlet, and marries his new boo. Having the time of his life, recording what he claims is atrocities by the Ukrainians. Anyway, on April 8th, 2024, he and his wife, Ludmila, we'll just call her Miss Bentley.
I believe it would be Ludmila.
All right.
Ludmila.
Mrs. Bentley.
Bentley.
They observe a rocket land nearby where they are, living. He's like, well, shit, I'm a journalist, might as well go cover this, which I don't blame him. I mean, that pays the bills. But he does. He sets off in their car. When he gets to the site, he begins taking some photographs, doing his journalist, song and dance. He's observed by Russian soldiers of the 5th Brigade, who at the time were commanded by a Pavel Klemenko. He's over this.
Pavel, yeah, Mr. Pavel.
Yeah. And we'll do a segue as to set the tone for what this coal mine It's not even producing coal. No coal is being mined at this point in the war. It's a concentration camp, and that is even described by former Russian troops.
Okay.
So Russian troops that are there, ones that they deem cowards, ones that are injured, they will be extorted for the betterment. They'll just extort them for money, and it goes to the higher ups and trickles down. Some troops are kidnapped that they deem cowards. Troops from penal colonies in proper Russia that are sent there for the storm troops. Any of those that they have, they take them into the
Cannon fodder.
Yeah, or they're soon to be cannon fodder. So apparently, they have salary cards. That's what these troops would have, and they'll have them rewritten, and they'll think of it in U.S. Military terms, like your remittances or your direct deposits. It's like they're going to be redirected. And that's what they will do with these folks. And they'll keep them about approximately 2 months. They'll change their power of attorney for back home. And then ultimately, they'll be sent to, whatever their assignment is on the front. Usually
in the forest.
Storm battalions. And those that make it, they'll use those injury payments. They'll have them sign it off, and it'll go to their commanders. Okay. Pretty much torture. Like, give us your money, and or you're going to redirect the flow of your paycheck.
So we're not talking about something that is really a journalist-friendly environment.
I think they're probably regretting their decisions now. Those the 5th Battalion or 5th Brigade. Sorry.
Yeah, because 2 dingleberries on a podcast know about it now. So anyways, go ahead.
Anyway, there's a missile strike. He is doing his journalist thing. And for, troops from the 5th Brigade see him, like, the hell you doing here? And his witnesses say that his Russian sucked, which I think it probably would. I can't even master Spanish, so.
And I don't know if there's a lot of equivalencies to the words bro and dude in Russian, and that seems to be, outside of Nazi, his 2 favorite words.
So immediately it seems,
bro.
It seems suspicious to these folks, and rightly so, I think.
Yeah.
And these guys are extortionists, at least that's what some outlets are saying.
And drunk.
They are drunk. And ultimately, the outcome's not good for old Russell Bentley. He still ends up in the belly of the tiger. However, the manner in which he ends up in the belly of the tiger is debated across the ether or the internets. Some of these message threads that I've gone through.
What's the official account?
The official account, his body was taken and thrown in a vehicle and blown up to cover up the evidence. Now, the cause of death was not his carcass being thrown in the vehicle and being blown up, obviously, but it was his wife reported that it was electroshock, which caused some sort of a medical emergency with his heart, and it's deceased. However,
he didn't appear to be the healthiest human. I will say that.
No, smoking cigarettes at 64 years old is you're not running marathons. Maybe you are. I don't know. He was Spetsnaz. The most, unlikely of operators, is hidden in plain sight. So that's what his wife said, the electroshock. And this coal mine has been described as a concentration camp. where they use Chechen tactics where they dig pits, throw people in them, very small pits and cages on top. Don't have much more detail than that. And the most violent ending that was described. Ultimately, same outcome. Carcass thrown in car and exploded. However,
and then removed from car, right? It was
he was removed from car. They smashed his phone
far away. Yeah.
But they kind of got the Gaddafi outcome. Like they said, he was raped.
Didn't hear that.
Yeah, he was raped alive, then beheaded, and then I guess once these 5th Brigade, these 4 soldiers had a what-whoa moment, like this guy's actually liked by his the Vostok veterans.
Comrades.
Yeah, they tried to cover it up and blew up the remains.
Yeah, and then removed the carcass from the exploded car and buried it at a different location to try to. Yeah. Well, and then the soldiers, there were arrests, and about this incident, correct? If I remember correctly. Okay, how did that? What was that? Do you know the details of the arrests?
Nothing other than the arrest. I had seen one other headline that they would maybe forego throwing them in a jail, and they would just have to go back to line units or storm units, and you're pretty much, that's a death sentence, at least from what I read.
Okay.
A few days ago, though, at the time of all this stuff going down for Mr. Bentley, that was April of 2024. Pavel Klemenko, he was commander of the 5th Brigade. A couple days ago, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 at this point, he mysteriously is found dead. So if that's any justice for old Texas, I don't know. But
I don't know.
That 5th Brigade, or the Oplot Brigade, is by numerous accounts and media sources running a concentration camp there in Petrovsky. So,
well, that's that. Mr. Bentley met his end where he wanted to meet it. Probably not by the hands of who he wanted to meet it by. Let's see. I'm going to check the internet here if there's anything about the investigation. Let's see. Tortured and killed by the 5th Brigade.
They did recover his pistol in a backpack, I'd read as well. So I don't know how thorough investigations are going to be in the DPR at this phase.
Yeah,
I think it's even wilder, though. A real life concentration camp. Like I'd read about this like the last time, like Kosovo, like during the Yugoslavia, all that. Like there's I can't remember the name, but there's like 5,000 Kosovars were killed, I believe, at some concentration, like war crime. That's what led to many of the those former members of the now defunct Yugoslavia, or Serbia, sorry.
Yes.
Ending up at The Hague.
The infamous pill.
Yeah.
The poison. The guy took poison at the Hague.
That's slick.
Very slick.
Yeah.
Very slick. Never to be forgotten. Never to be forgotten. Biggest middle finger you could ever give. Interesting that a guy who hated Nazis so much died at the hands of somebody running a concentration camp, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, what an interesting guy.
Wildlife.
Describes himself as an arborist, by the way, from Austin, Texas. In this Newsweek article that I'm looking at right now, an arborist from Austin, Texas. I wonder if that harkens to his cannabis advocacy. Yeah. So
yeah, I wonder if he felt vindicated at the end. He's like, marijuana's still not legal federally, but now it's kind of like meh.
Soon to be, I think. Soon to be. You know, I think about you know, obviously we read a lot about mercenaries and people like that, and one thing that strikes me, and I don't know if you feel this way too, but I notice a lot of these memoirs, they seem to have a tone of regret at the end for their mercenary work, and I wonder if there was any regret in his heart, or did he feel like he, you know, was a necessary casualty of the greater good? You know.
I don't think if I don't if I'm getting raped and then beheaded, or the kinder option, electroshocked and having a heart attack. Nah, none of those are. I don't feel appreciated at that point.
I don't think I would either, man. I don't think I would either. I know one thing for certain, though. I don't think there's anything that broke his hatred of NATO. That was a NATO hate. The funniest little, you know, it's one of those things like.
You think it is dying, you know, like his fading. I guess when he's fading out, like everything's going black or white, he's like, NATO finally got me.
I wonder if he just gargled and spit out "fuck NATO" one more time before he died. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a, you know, they say, I don't know. He told a story on one podcast I listened to, and it was one of those ones like, you know, you see people post something on X or on Facebook or whatever. And it's like, you know, I got up today and my 6-year-old was crying because she said, "Mommy, is Donald Trump going to take away my rights to have an abortion?" And it's like, you only thought, oh, I'll take things that never happened for $200, Alex. One of the things he told on a podcast that I thought was one of the perfect categories for things that never happened for $200, Alex, was he was like, I had this girlfriend, and she lived in this apartment, and I would go stay with her. And when I'd leave, there was a Marines billboard. And you know,
fuck
for
NATO.
honor, for country. And he said, one night I was just so pissed, and I got some mountain climbing gear out of my car, like we all keep in our car in the, you know, flatlands of Texas, in the hill country in Texas.
Because he was a mountain climber, yeah.
Absolutely.
Those are wiry motherfuckers.
He had the build for it. He had the build for the mountain climbing. I guess. He got his mountain climbing gear, and when he crawled up, I forget what he's 18 meters. He was very, very, very committed to the metric system. So his always meter, 18 meters to the top of this sign. And I spray painted "fuck NATO," and it stayed up there for 6 months. And 50,000 cars a day drove past this Marine sign that said "fuck NATO" on it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, fuck something. If you only knew. Here in the safety of my NATO country, nothing has penetrated my bunghole. Yeah, but again, I will say, in all respect of the deceased, a true believer, and definitely not just a different shade of gray. Texas Bentley was a one of one. He was a one of one, and that guy was something else. But I guess we should, in full integrity, we should couch this episode with our own opinions of this Ukrainian conflict. Context matters, and so I guess I will say there's something that never tastes good to me when you take my tax money and you blow people up with it, and you don't tell me what I get for it. Because I'm a big return on investment guy. You know, I'm okay investing in violence, but what do I get out of it? And it just sucks because, you know, like our great grandparents, their ROI was high. You know, like they invested money in violence, and they got to say they lived in the strongest country in the greatest country on earth. nobody could fuck with us. And the legacy has lasted 2 generations, 2 generations of return on investment of like, regardless, all we have to do is elect a guy with big balls, and we can get whatever we want throughout the world just based on the investment of our, of a previous generation. And our generation is invested in violence, and all we get is kind of ridicule. And I don't think that our investment in the Ukraine is going to get us anything more than that. But at the same time, I ain't moving to the Donbass, I ain't moving to the Donbass. And I'm certainly not going to join forces with the anal penetrators either. So I don't know. It's just a weird situation that I think I'm pretty much on neither side. I'm not taking sides on either one of those. I feel like I may be above that fray. As I drink my Oktoberfest beer and make a podcast.
Yeah, with Bentley. While I agree with pretty much nothing that probably came from his mouth, seemed like a likable fella. Me, I'm pro-violence, when it's for the greater good, and
it pays the bills.
Yeah, I sympathize or empathize with the Ukrainians. I wish them well. I don't trust the old Ruskies.
No.
I understand American sentiment, why they might not be like, okay, why is all this, tens of billions of dollars going there when we need it here? I get that. And, but at the end of the day, I think it's a clever way to grind down an adversary that wants to, see us on a bad end. See us on the end of the bayonet.
Less than honorable.
Yeah.
Less than honorable, though. Less than honorable, in my opinion. I'd have way less issue with our own ammunition in our own hands doing the damage than I would fighting via proxy, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's something that
I don't agree with I don't agree with the politics and what defense industries are getting funded by all this, but at a very basic human level, I want the Ukrainians to win, and I applaud their violence in certain instances, many instances.
Yeah, I am. I think probably the more I think about it, I'm probably pro chaos in the East. Like, the more chaos, the merrier when it comes to their side of the world, their side of the globe.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a cheap way to grind down. Russia's no friend to the U.S. That is
certainly not.
They want to see us just as chaotic and fucked up as they are. So
yeah, and they've probably spent as much, maybe not as much money as we have in creating our chaos, but per capita, maybe, or percentage of GDP, maybe even more. They probably spent more money, percentage of GDP, to create chaos on our side of the rock than we've spent on their side of the rock. But yeah, I just wish that the ties that bind us to the chaos creation were more steel than they were silk. I just wish that we were really I wish we did it with the middle finger instead of a pen. Yeah. But we say if they didn't elect me president, I don't know. I'm not a pacifist. But there's just something less than honorable about doing it like a bitch, I guess. You're just kind of doing it like a bitch. You're just the guy holding the iPhone during the fight. You're running your mouth. You're not ever going to take a punch. You're never going to take a punch. You're never going to earn victory. But yeah, I definitely, if I had to pick a side, if there was a gun to my head, or God's foot was hovering inches above my head, and he said, if you don't answer, you don't pick a side. I was like, man, keep the violence going, keep it going. They're fighting over there, they're not fighting over here.
Yeah.
If they're dying, then my friends aren't dying. So yeah, you got to be real about it. You have to pick a side.
What would you say if you were in the Petrovsky coal mine?
In what regard?
You said like with a gun to your head.
But I'm saying if I was a victim of the coal mine,
a tenant,
whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
I guess
it takes to keep the bayonet out of my ass. I guess that's what I'd say. What do I need to say to keep the bayonet out of my ass?
Fine. Fine. You get the battery. You get the the electroshock.
I mean, is there something I can say to keep that away too? I mean, it's always about the next breath, right? At the end of the day, it's always about that next inhale.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Personally, I one thing that I was like, what kind of pistol did he have? That
I do wonder. I know his rifle of choice was an AK-47.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about it often.
Yeah.
He talked about his armor. He definitely possessed body armor. Didn't elaborate on that anywhere, but I do wonder about the pistol. I wonder what
kind.
Wonder what the most popular pistol in Russia is,
or the DPR right now. Probably anything.
Probably anything you can get. He did talk about one time, I think it was I think you listened to the podcast too, where he talked about how the black market for arms was down, like the prices was down like 90% because of he claimed because the Ukrainians selling arms that they received from America on the black market. He's like, where it would have cost $3,000 before, you could buy for $300 or $200.
Yeah, there was like U.S. Senate was really scrutinizing that. Like, all right, you guys got to start tracking this shit. Like, granted, that was like javelins that they were putting on the lookity box or the news box, but I'm sure, yeah, everything else. Like, if I were over there, I would want an AK. I'd probably want 10 just so I could cannibalize all the parts off of one or the other. Yeah, those folks are in a tough spot, I suppose. But
they're in a different spot than us, that's for sure. Let's see. I'm having a hard time finding this information. Let's see. Most Donbass and Donetsk and DPR has nothing, but let's just do Russia. Most popular pistol in Russia. The Tokarev pistol, 7.62 by 25. Tokarev, most widely used, especially in reserve military units. Let's see what this article has to say. Bear with me, technical. Okay, this one says the TT-30, which is also a 7.62 by 25. And Makarov is number 2.
Always wanted one.
I bet you that Ludmilla might sell you one cheap. Maybe not, actually. she might have bought 2 more.
Yeah, she's dipping those bullets in blood. I'm avenging.
I wonder, I wonder what her PR is going to, if she ever starts it up.
It's probably a screw up. I mean, at least, what do you think? Like, if that guy was on the payroll of the CIA or something?
Yeah.
Like would that be like a triple agent? Like he's with the DPR, the Russians, the CIA.
And the CIA. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't strike you in any way, shape, or form as a self-made man, except for by his story and all the research that you can do. So if he is CIA or any kind of double or triple or quadruple or quintuple agent, I mean, they certainly hit. There is no trail on the internet. There is no tie. There is no mention. I don't think until this podcast, or even the possibility, the scotchability of this guy being an asset.
Well, wouldn't that be clever though? Like,
Yeah,
if you were an
so you're
intelligence,
saying the drunk Russians got it right?
yeah, like they smashed his phone. I don't know. If I were the drunk Russian and discovered a Western spy, I would probably keep their phone. Unless,
Tracking though,
yeah, unless we want to make unless they want to, that's a tough one, I guess. I've never been in that spot.
Yeah, definitely a seed of thought or a rabbit hole to.
So potentially, Mr. Bentley was a triple agent.
Yeah,
it's my take.
Just a fucking snitch at the end. With a Tokarev.
Whoa, with a discarded one.
Yeah. And, well, it would be an obtained one. What do you guys call that? What was that called in law enforcement?
No idea.
Something like that. A seized pistol. It was a civil forfeiture of his Tokarev.
Ultimately abandoned. But
abandoned, yes, yeah.
We're at a little over the 1 hour mark, and I think
not as much as the man deserves, but all we could give him.
Yeah, it's the best I could do. We could do.
Here's to you, Russell Bentley.
Ching ching. Russell Bonner Bentley.
Adios, amigo.
All right, until next time, that's a wrap for episode 001, Mercworks Podcast. Thanks.
Coming at you next time.